Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. From Netflix charts to Billboard rankings, K-culture is no longer riding a wave, it's shaping the current. Squid Game 3 just topped the world's biggest platform in 93 countries. K-pop is expanding into animation, arena tours, and soundtracks that dominate global charts. Rookie groups are breaking records in their first week. Korean musicals are winning on Broadway. And now, with government funding pouring into content tech, Korea isn't just exporting culture, it's building the next phase of it. So today we ask, where does Korea's cultural power stand now, and where is it headed next? For answers to this, we are joined by Jason Bechervaise, Assistant Professor of International Affairs at Hanyang University, in the studio with us. Welcome.
Hello, Morgan. It's great to be here, as always.
Good to see you. Now, also joining us online from New York is entertainment reporter Tamar Herman. Good to see you, Tamar.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. So let's begin our discussion with Jason, starting with the most visible milestone lately, Squid Game 3. It has topped Netflix charts in 93 countries for 2 straight weeks. What does this sustained global traction say about the evolution of K-dramas into, internationally recognized storytelling powerhouses?
Well, it's part of the mainstream. Clearly, Squid Game is the most successful series on Netflix. All 3 seasons have been hugely popular, and it's breaking box office records with the latest season. And unexpectedly, Korean content, compared to at least just a few years ago, it's gone completely mainstream. I mean, Squid Game is an interesting example because, I think Squid Game season 3 was always going to do well, but I think even considering that, I think the fact that it's topping the charts in such a way, breaking box office records, just goes to show the how popular K content has become. Squid Game, is the leading in terms of eyeballs, is what Netflix talk about, in the industry. That's their most popular IP, and it'd be interesting to see what happens going forward. If there are any spin-offs. Hwan Dong-geuk, the creator, the director, and the producer. I think he's kind of saying goodbye. We'll have to wait and see what really happens there. But K content is in an interesting point right now. Shows, I think, are in a better place than films. We can maybe talk a bit about that later. But the production values are always so excellent. They're so well shot, so well put together. And the way they're able to, capture Korean culture in ways that, attract attention overseas. I think once you take that kind of the Korean element out of those films, out of those shows, they're not as popular. That's something when I'm talking to my students, they seem to be less keen on content, or even K-pop groups that have less of the kind of the Korean dynamism. So it'd be interesting to see what happens going forward. But it's good news for the content industry. But I think the industry at the moment, to some extent, is very much heavily reliant on Squid Game, right? Because it's not every show that's breaking out in a big way. Film industry is struggling, but it is good news in what is a challenging ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. So, a lot of things have changed, but it seems as though global audiences are not just considering Korean content as a niche these days.
Oh, it's not niche anymore, no. And it's interesting how the algorithms are working as well, because if they start watching Squid Game, a lot of other Korean content appears on their algorithms. I have students who come to Korea and then they just see all this Korean content and they start watching it. And, there's all these different factors at play, and there's just so much Korean content. I mean, if you look at the content that Netflix finances at the moment, sure, it is English content, it's Spanish content, and it's Korean content. It's one of their big parts of their business. It'd be interesting to see whether that continues, over the next few years, or whether, other markets to look out for at the moment are in Southeast Asia, so Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia. There's Thailand, some really interesting horror content that's emerging, and they're the kind of the new upcoming markets. And it's whether Korea can sustain sustain, the Hallyu going forward. That's the challenge.
Right. So if we could maintain this flow moving forward. Now let's shift a little bit to K-pop now. K-pop Demon Hunter isn't just streaming well, it's really topping Billboard and Spotify charts lately. Tamar, do you see this as a turning point where, K-pop identities are evolving into full-scale cross-media franchises?
I think K-pop Demon Hunters is a pleasant surprise for a lot of people who were kind of hesitant to jump onto the film when it was first announced several years ago. It's directed by Maggie Kong, and you can tell that every single aspect of the film that was put together, from the music to the film itself and the plot, is like a labor of love. And so I think that to set the expectation of K-pop cross-media franchises through it is very hard to say, because like it's such a unique film. I think that some people will probably take the wrong message from this, and rather than try to figure out what makes the film so special without the K-pop, like what it obviously needs the K-pop to be a great film, but also at the same time it's just a great film because it happens to be about K-pop, but not because only it's about K-pop. So I think that some people might end up taking the wrong notes from it and decide that every K-pop cartoon is probably going to be a hit. And I think that's the wrong theme here. And I think that people should really investigate what about the K-pop in this film as it's represented, and the people who worked on it, who worked within the K-pop industry, and those who worked on the film who just love the K-pop industry, and just figure out like what exactly made the magic happen. I think this film really got that right. And I think that it's both a great success, and I imagine that the fans who are clamoring for some prequels or sequels will probably get some good news in the near future, unless I'm very, very wrong. But I think that it's a show of like what good quality content can be, and K-pop is that generally. So I think it's like setting the standard of what something about K-pop can look like that's made outside of other countries. The US has regularly, or not so regularly, but there has been other shows that have attempted to be inspired by K-pop and movies, and they've never really hit as hard as this. So I think that people should really investigate what makes this so special, and then go from there and try to figure out how else they can think about K-pop in other medium, but not necessarily take the wrong message here, which would be that K-pop is 100% a big win. This film is about K-pop, but it's also just generally such a great film.
It definitely was a very surprising film for many, and of course, it's a good thing for South Korean K-content in general. Now, let's turn to a recent survey held by Arirang TV on 94 countries, on more than 800 participants. According to that survey, BTS's V and IU have been named as the top K-pop artists as of Thursday. Now, considering how long both artists have been in the spotlight, what do you think? What does their staying power tell us about the global K-pop scene and how it treats its icons?
So I have to say, I was really surprised actually this morning when I heard we were talking about V, because I had read the news previously that it was Jungkook, and now I'm seeing that it's V, which I think shows just generally how much fan power that the BTS members individually have. But I think that both V and IU, in general, I see the whole chart there is BTS fans and BTS and Taemin and IU. So, and then a lot of other really talented artists. So I think that we see the staying power of artists who really create deep connections with their fans over time. IU's been, active now for decades, and BTS also has celebrated beyond their 10th anniversary. And so I think that we really see the staying power of longevity of these artists who create music that really resonates with the fans, that really connects to the fans on a deeper level, individually, personally, both through their art and through the way that they interact with the world. And I think that it really shows us just like how success doesn't, just happen overnight. And I think it's a great reminder for the industry that you need to invest a little bit more in long-term talent, because those are the ones who really keep the fans around. BTS, they took several years to grow to get to the top of their game, and IU also, she had hits very early on, but her first few releases were only moderate successes. So I think that if you look back from where they started to where they are now, it really just shows the power of good art and the artist's dedication and how that relates to fans.
Right. And that kind
Also,
of.
sorry, I just want to go back to K-pop Demon Hunters. It is not a South Korean production. It is an American production. So I just want to make that clear. It was
All right.
directed by Maggie Kong and put by Sony. So I feel like talking about it in relation to a lot of Korean content is important, but I just want to make that clear to listeners. Sorry.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. So as we were speaking about IU and V, it seems as though, long-term fandom really speaks to how K-pop has grown up with its audience over time. Now, let's shift a little bit to Broadway now. Jason,
Yeah.
The Korean musical Maybe Happy Ending just swept 6 Tony Awards. How does this amazing breakthrough reflect Korea's ability to, globalize its narratives to film and, beyond television?
Yeah, it's incredible. Tony Awards, Emmys, Oscars, Golden Globes, Screen Actors Guild Awards, you name it. They've won everything. They're sweeping everything. It's incredible. I haven't seen this musical, Maybe Happy Ending. I really want to. But since I heard this news, it brought back to mind a musical I did watch last year called Hero here in Korea. And I'm originally from the UK. I was lucky to be a student in London, and I just watched loads of musicals. And so some of the best musicals on the planet. And I went into Hero thinking, how can it live up to those expectations? But I was blown away, just the set pieces on stage, the music, and Korea has this it's not just visuals. Obviously, we've got K-pop and just, incredible voices out there and just all-rounded artists, very talented, gifted. And so I think, in terms of the culture industry, it is diverse. We're seeing attention on not just music, not just films, not just dramas, miniseries, but animations and musicals. And so yeah, it's absolutely terrific. I think it really does demonstrate the global appeal of the Korean culture industry, and I'm really, really happy. It's not my area of expertise, if I'm honest, musicals, but it was a delight to hear about that.
Right. I haven't seen it myself yet, but let's definitely make time to.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, to be amazed.
Really
I really want to see it.
Right. Now, let's turn from, stage to stage debut now. Rookie boy group Ahop won a music show just 1 week after their debut, Tomorrow. Could this kind of very fast success show that the timeline for making it in K-pop has completely changed from before?
Yeah, I think the win after a week of a debut was kind of the fallout of debuting through a television show. They debuted through SBS's Universe League, and it's made up a group that has a lot of public presence with members who have previously debuted, previously competed on competition shows, and even one member from Thailand, from the Philippines, JL, who is in a still active boy band over there. And so I think that there's a lot of different factors here, having the public presence, being a multinational group, these things bring a lot of fans out to support them. So I think that the first week win is something maybe not so expected, because the first week is still a very big deal. But I think the success we've seen from other groups debuting through shows and with multinational backing and members who people already know is quite common nowadays. And we're seeing this kind of as a way for groups to really break out from day one. And I think we're seeing a lot of these similar factors impacting the lead-in time to success for K-pop. And I think it's a really great thing, because it means that right out the gate, you can get really started and really successful. But I'm also hesitant, because sometimes you need that early era to actually formulate who you are as a group and formulate who you are as artists, and get that experience. So I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen in the long run for Ahop and other groups that maybe get that kind of supercharged impact from all the various factors that lead to them being an immediate success right out the door, and see how it plays out over the following years.
Right, so we'll definitely keep a close eye on how they would perform in the coming months and years or so. Now, let's take a look at the talent pipeline now. Jason, lately, Korea's culture ministry has doubled its investment in short-form dramas.
Yeah.
How critical are these measures in discovering and launching globally competitive creators?
Yeah, they're really important. I mean, Korea has a long tradition, yeah, certainly in the film industry, but also the wider content industry, in terms as a tradition of in terms of focusing on education, like raising that next generation. And it's really important now for the culture industry to look ahead and train young voices. And so yeah, these short form dramas, which are essentially TV movies, although they're available online. The budget was expanded to 2 billion won, so 15 titles. And When Life Gives You Tangerines, that amazing drama, the director Kim Won-suk, he spoke about the need for the government to invest in these forms and to give opportunities for these young filmmakers or these young creators to be able to make these short dramas. Summer Love, Machine Blues, and Do Not Press the Peach. They've won awards at various festivals here in Korea and overseas. So it is a critical form, and this is something that I'm encouraging. Yeah, I'm very encouraged to hear that the government's supporting it, and so yeah. Next generation, we want a lot more of that, both in the TV, wider content industry, and also including film as well.
Now, speaking about investment, Jason. Excuse me. So it's not new that Korean content is being consumed everywhere across the globe, from Paris to even Peru. In your view, what gives K-content that kind of cross-cultural resonance despite the gap in language or distance?
Yeah, I was speaking to my students recently about the success of Parasite, and Bong Joon-ho, before he went to Cannes, he was asked about his chances at winning the Palme d'Or, and he was very modest, but what he did say was quite striking. He said, well, this film is very Korean, I'm not sure the jury will be able to understand my movie. And as it happened, they did understand it, and even though it was very Korean, and that's true of Squid Game as well, the issues these movies, these dramas, they tackle, they are a problem in Korea: social inequality, competition, neoliberalism, capitalism. They're all here. They might be more pronounced than other places, but they're here. And I think audiences connect. They relate to that in a big way. And I think it's also how these directors are able to convey these stories, tackle these issues, like mixing genres, turning genres upside down, being really innovative and creative in their approach. And it's high production values. They look great. You have some of the best production designers here, some of the best cinematographers in the world work here. And it's a team. It's a collaborative effort. And so it's a lot of talent behind the camera, in front of the camera, and then you have some very, very talented, writers and directors. And that is, at the heart of the culture industry.
Right. So, do you think, the public's understanding of, Korean culture through these contents helped in, gaining interest? Yeah,
I mean, I think, if I go back to when I first got interested in Korean culture, I watched, Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder, and I didn't understand a lot about the movie. I mean, I understood the film and the story and everything, but there was a lot about the history I did not know. But it's just the way the director pulls me into that kind of narrative, and I want to know more. And the dramas are accessible. The films are accessible. They're not. It's not like a movie where you watch it and you're like, I don't know any of this. I can't access it. I find it very difficult to kind of get drawn in because there's so much I don't know. I don't think that's a problem with Korean content. I think, yes, there are complexities there. Sure, as you end up learning more about Korean culture, you learn more about it. But I think the genius, when it comes to someone like Bong Joon-ho, is that he's able to make films that are accessible. But as you learn more about the culture, you learn more about the history, you realize, how incredibly layered it is, and so that's why this content is mainstream, because it attracts those that don't necessarily have a great understanding of Korean culture, and it also attracts people like me who've been here 20 years, and I continue to learn more through the content. So there you go.
Right, so it helps us definitely relate to it. Now, before we conclude our discussion tonight, on the heart of it all, today's K-pop fandoms aren't just fan bases, they're ecosystems shaping platforms, narratives, and even policy. So Tamar, what do you think K-pop represents to Korea and the world in 2025?
I think like what the professor was talking about, a lot of Korean popular culture content, especially K-pop act, is kind of a doorway to understanding Korea from that outside perspective for many fans around the world. And I think it sets the standard generally for Korean popular content and just generally popular content nowadays because we see other industries looking to K-pop to try to figure out what makes it tick, what makes it really connect and resonate with fans. We're seeing generally super fandom becoming more of a buzzword across different industries as they try to figure out the new markets, and the new markets is the fandom market. So for many not even just culture or industries, but sports, even businesses around like skincare and food. They're all trying to figure out how to build the fandom audience. And I think K-pop has kind of become the standard for this. And I think it's just really one aspect of like so many popular Korean culture industries that figure out how to create good art that is both accessible, but once you lean into it and you learn a little bit more, you know, it's like not to like quote Shrek, but it's like peeling away the onions, the layers, and like you get more and more gold the deeper you get into the center. So, you know, people maybe don't know the lyrics, what they mean at first, but then if they look into it or they investigate the artist, like you kind of get into it. And I think that really is kind of what Korean content does just generally really well at every level. And so I think K-pop really sets the standard in that regard.
Right. You can really, see how these fandoms have become cultural forces, not just music communities. So there's definitely a lot of things to look forward to in the area moving forward. I'm afraid we'll have to conclude our discussion here tonight, but thank you so much for your time and for your insights, Jason.
Thank you.
And Tamar, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.